Welcome to today's workshop on Rowan Williams PhD Studentship. I'll talk to you about Project EduAccess and introduce you to your panelists who will then take you over what the what the Cambridge Studentship is, what the eligibility is, what the timeline looks like, what is the application process, and we'll take you through the application form itself and the personal statement that you have to write with your application. They'll give you some general tips and then we move to the Q&A. So we are Project EduAccess. We believe that access to higher education, leadership, and professional opportunities is a privilege that most people from marginalized communities are systematically denied through cost, information, and dispositional barriers. And we try to improve inclusivity in some of these spaces by removing these barriers for marginalized communities in the global south. Our workshop series, our online workshops on various scholarship opportunities is one of the ways in which we try to make information more accessible on higher education abroad. And to do that, we have with us a wonderful panelist, Deepti, who has been a constant on our workshops. So thank you, Deepti, for joining us again today. Deepti did an MPhil in South Asian Studies from University of Cambridge and received the Rowan Williams Cambridge Studentship for 2021-2022. Again, thank you, Deepti, for joining us, and I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Misbah, and thank you to Project EduAccess to having me again this second year. And as Misbah said, I did my MPhil in 2021-22 and received the Rowan Williams Scholarship. So a little about the Rowan Williams Scholarship. This is a program that was established by the Cambridge Trust to support the students who face severe barriers. And the application to this the studentship is only for the students who are applying for the University of Cambridge. So if you're applying for any other university such as Oxford or SOAS LSE, it doesn't apply because it's only for the University of Cambridge students. And it's available at master's and PhD in any subject. So everyone is eligible to apply for this. The main key eligibility for this application is that you have to belong to a area of instability or zone of conflict, or have been at risk of discrimination, persecution, suffering violence, or abuse of your human rights. And you need to submit a separate scholarship, separate application to avail this scholarship. And I will go through this, how the process of submitting this separate scholarship. And the wonderful thing about this scholarship is that it covers your entire university fee, your annual stipend, and your other allowances such as your travel, visa, and health surcharge costs. Therefore, you are entirely covered to study freely without the tension of financial hurdles while you are at Cambridge. Yes, next slide, please. Okay, so the eligibility, as prior also said, that you have to hold a conditional offer to the of admission to the University of Cambridge, and you must belong to any of the degrees. So that the degree or the department, it's not a barrier, but again, you have to be from an area of instability or zone of conflict. That is, you have to prove that how structural discrimination or the structure has been a hindrance for you to avail education, and therefore you will not be able to pursue your education at Cambridge unless you are provided this scholarship. And this is a unique feature of this scholarship, that while other scholarships such as Gates or INLACs, probably they say that they are on merit, but this scholarship is mostly on need basis. Therefore, that is that you come from a very place or institution where you have faced severe challenges to pursue education, and therefore you have to prove this in your application. And also, good thing about this scholarship, this application, is that you yourself set your criteria, and there is no set criteria that okay, you have to belong to a refugee or you have to provide any documents in order to prove that, but your application will itself prove your genuinity of the need. And therefore, the last point, as the slide says, that the applicants do not necessarily need to have a refugee status. Okay, next slide, please. Yes, so the timeline of this application is that you have to submit this application at the same time when you're applying for your course. That is, you might have two different, depending on your course, either 3rd of December or 7th of Jan. And in this application to your course, there would be a funding section where you can tick this, the Rowan Williams or the Cambridge Trust studentship. And once you tick and submit your course application, that is the first stage of this application. The second stage is that you will get an email from the Cambridge Trust or the Rowan Williams that you are eligible for this scholarship, and then you have to fill that form, which has two separate questions, and we'll go through those questions by the 31st of Jan. So there are two timelines to it. One, that you have to submit your application, your course application by the funding deadline application date, that is 3rd or 7th, and then submit this separate application form for the Rowan Williams by 31st of Jan. And the trust award period runs from the March to the end of July, and the majority of the awards that are made in March. However, as it goes till July, do not lose hope, but constantly keep checking on the donors that what is the status of your application. So unsuccessful, yeah, the next, this is the link, and you can easily go through their website, and which has the details of different what are your eligibility, how to apply, and what all it should entail. You can find the details in this page. Further, yeah, again, you should have a different separate application to the trust. Next slide. Now, this is the separate application form that you will receive via email after you have submitted your course application. And this entails, the first page entails the basic contact details and your application, your details such as your name, your nationality, your date of birth, and other address and contact number. Next page. These are the two main questions, and I will, if it's blurry, do not worry. We'll go through these two separate questions in detail. This is the main component of this application, as well as the focus of this presentation. That is, you have to answer two questions, and there is no word limit as such, but approximately 500 to 1,000 words. And the first question is that you have to describe the reasons why you're applying for the Rowan Williams studentship. And the second question is to describe the severity of the challenges that you have faced in accessing and pursuing further education. We'll go through this after we cover the third page of this application form. The next slide. Yeah, so this is the third page of the application form for the Rowan Williams, and this again entails more technical questions such as how much your university will cost and living cost will be there, and if you have any other sources of funding or scholarships, and if you have applied for other grants. So kindly give the details of other scholarships that you have applied for, and having other sources of funding will not affect your application negatively in any way. So kindly be truthful about your the funding sources and provide the details as required. Yes, next page. So this is the question that we saw earlier in the last to last slide. That is the two questions that I was telling you of. The first question is that to describe the reasons why you're applying for the Rowan Williams studentship and according to the following eligibility, that is, if you are from an area of instability or zone of conflict, and if you have been at risk of discrimination, persecution, suffering, violence, or abuse of your human rights. I think these questions make it very clear that the Rowan Williams studentship is for persons who have faced considerable structural barrier to their education, as well as even survival in some sense. And the second question is to describe the challenges that you're faced in accessing the further education. Uh, Next slide. So I'll give a little more attention to the first question, and then the second question is that how can you write a good statement of purpose regarding why you should be considered for the Rowan Williams studentship? And I think so I'll give my example if I have been brought up to this panel is that I come from a indigenous community from Jharkhand, and I have um, stayed and lived in a place where there has been constant conflict between uh, the armed paramilitary forces and the state, as well as in a I belong from a state Jharkhand where there is a constant suppression from the state and for the control of the mineral resources, as well as belonging to an indigenous community. There has been constant and continuous forms of discrimination and harassment, both in covert and in non-covert ways. For example, you can get discriminated based on what access you have to the different kind of schools, or after even schools, how you are treated by teachers, or even by the curriculum that is not very sensitive or aware of your indigenous heritage and lifestyle. So some discrimination can be very covert and very uh, intentional, whereas some discrimination or abuse of human rights can be not very intentional, but you at a individual, your own space, you feel that you are being denied your human rights. So understand and reflect over your own experiences. I believe that most of us are from the South Asian community, and in the South Asian community, reflect over the what are the structural barriers you have faced in terms of your, let's say, your caste, your indigeneity, your the civil and state violence, if there has been any natural and man-made calamities, or based on your sexuality. So if there are people coming from Dalit, Adivasi, Bahujan communities, how does that um, affect has affected your experience as well as your entire journey of education? Bring out those examples and experience in your answer, and discuss the different ways that the uh, these has challenged you, and also has provided a very challenging environment to study uh, properly. And also a good way to write not just I think the Rowan Williams scholarship application, but also for any other applications or scholarships that you're applying for, is that maintain a positive attitude and to reflect how these challenges, how will you use these challenges to bring about a positive change. So for example, in my experience and my interaction with the state, the violent state, and the extraction of minerals, I used it to tell how I will in my MPhil that I pursued in Cambridge. I used it to study the extractive industry and the climate change. So not necessarily that you will have the same experience, but just an instance to tell you how the challenges that you have faced, how will you positively, if you can reflect in your statement of purpose, how will you utilize them positively to overcome and to make sure that someone else doesn't face the similar discrimination. That can become a good statement of purpose for your first answer. Now let's move to the second question. Yes, the second question is to describe the severity of the challenges you faced in accessing and pursuing the further education. So uh, these are the few uh, indicators I thought that can hint you towards thinking about some factors that you might have faced challenges in pursuing your education. Financial, which is very big challenge, but apart from finance, there are also other factors such as your geography, the place, um, the town, the urban and the rural divide, and even among the urban rural divide, there are tiers of towns and villages, and how geography affects your access to different kind of schools, different kind of social capital, cultural capital, access of information, technology, and worldview. So you can include and reflect on these things. Your social cultural capital, how that affects your ability to access education, discrimination and bias, any health challenges. For example, the place that I come from, there was contamination of the air and the river because of the minerals that were being released from the industry. So any such challenges that you faced in your space that you grew up in, if there was lack of proper drinking water, or there was contamination, and lack of poor infrastructure and resources, language, if language formed any barrier to your education. For example, in my case, English was when I was able to get access to English education, there was lack of support from the community and from my family in order to practice the language. And even when you're studying, a lot of your curriculum is in English, so it forms hinders in order to understand what is being taught, or also kind of relate to what is being taught. So just these small points. And documentation issues such as um, in cases where if you have to move from one place to another, or in places where you're coming from area where there is violence and war going on, where you have to just vacate your place without a notice, and you are losing your documentation form if those formed any challenges to you. And yeah, I think skepticism or alienation from the curriculum and education, if the often it's said that this if you are not acquiring good marks, that means you as a student are at fault. But we also need to reflect, if the curriculum, if it's not according to the student, if they are not able to include student in if the curriculum is at fault, because most of the curriculum, it's mostly designed from a very mainstream or very histories of only few communities or few societies are being told, and if you do not reflect with them, then uh, you, you fall out from following those curriculums. So these are few examples that you can reflect on while writing your second statement of purpose. Okay, let's move to the next. Yeah, these are just some general tips to help you make this Rowan Williams as well, even other applications, is to introspect about your journey, about what you're studying and doing, and think deeply as well as honestly, and connect different thoughts. So I come from a social science background. It's very easy for me to reflect over what I have studied, what I'm doing, and what I'm being, as well as even for the I think even for the science students or any other disciplined students think deeply about and connect dots about what you're studying and how that's going to reflect or contribute back to the community, and therefore you'll be able to write good SOPs and expand your perspective about by learning different cultures, communities, history, especially the most marginalized, and write with a positive intention and enthusiasm. And lastly, discuss and debate with a group of both like and different minded people. And I would like to use this opportunity to give thanks to a lot of people who have been a very crucial part in writing my SOP. My friends from JNU, a lot of my other friends who were also making their applications. So do not fear to engage with other applicants, and do not see them as competition. Rather, try to help each other out there and see how you can make each other application better. Yes, so I think we have it's all for now. Let's take some questions, and if
Amazing. Thank you so much, Deepti. That was really wonderful. Thank you for sharing, so much about your own application with the audience. So yeah, now we move to the Q&A part of the session. If anyone has any questions, you can raise your hand and ask your questions directly to the panelist, or you can put your question in chat and I'd be happy to read them out for everyone. So yeah, and if anyone has any questions, now would be the time to ask them. Yes, Sachin.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, but maybe yes, speak a little more because very faintly.
Okay. So good afternoon, Deepti, and good afternoon, Misbah. So thank you for this wonderful session. So my question is around the scholarship. So they want a conditional offer letter from Cambridge to apply for that scholarship. So so the thing is, I have a scheduled IELTS exam in next month, 3rd of January. So I want to know because in their page they mentioned something as funding deadline. So I'm just confused. So if suppose Rowan Williams studentship is also kind of a funding. So are they talking about those funding deadlines, or is it something different? And other thing is, so as my English test is remaining, so as the deadline itself is 31st of January, only 30 or 35, not 40 days are remaining. So will I be able to complete the application process? Will I be able to get the conditional letter with that? So this is the question I have.
Okay, thank you, Swapnil. So yeah, the deadline. So as I said earlier, that there will be two deadlines. One is you can apply for this scholarship only once you have your conditional offer from the university, meaning that you have to apply maybe before. So in there are two deadlines. One is your funding application is the deadline 3rd of sorry 3rd of December and or 7th of Jan. Are you able to
7th of Jan is
7th of Jan?
deadline.
Okay,
Hmm.
so I would say that you will have to apply, make an application, submit your application that is before 7th of Jan, and
Hmm.
confirm from the department that I mean write to the department that you are applying for this scholarship. So you need a decision on your application before 31st,
I can say
right?
2025
So
sometimes. So can they make it early?
yeah, you can request from your department that to give you an early decision so that you can apply for this. So once you submit your course application, this will all automatically go into the database, and then they will give you the application form, and that you can submit by 31st. So even if by 7th you submit, since you have your so if you're giving your IELTS exam on 3rd of Jan, by when do you expect your IELTS test
I will
result
be getting
to?
in 2 days. So by 4th or 5th,
Okay.
I'll be having the result in my hand. So I can apply before the 7th of Jan. I'll be doing computer-based. Yes.
Yeah, you can apply, but I think now that the issue has resolved, I think by comfortably by 7th also, that is your funding deadline, you can apply.
So the question was, is it the same about all funding? So if I'm applying for Cambridge, so it is considering all the funding, basically all the scholarships. So I have to apply if I'm applying for any scholarship, I have to apply
Yeah,
before 7th of January. Okay,
yeah,
got
by
it.
the 7th
Got it.
of Jan deadline, that is the deadline for all scholarships.
Okay, got it. And other thing was the other question. So when I'm making the application, the statement, because the as I have gone through their pages, so they are specifically targeting people who are denied education because of various reasons, because of war, then or financial reason, those kind of reasons. So like if I talk about myself, so you told something about language as well, that language can be one of the barrier. And if I'm from a Dalit background, so it is also one of the thing. And if you are financially weak, that is also. So what all things should I focus more in my application? So as I'm from Dalit background and I'm from this the I have did my education in different language, like in Hindi I have completed, and then I have shifted. So is it something I'm making sense, or is it something different? So because in language it can be different, that you have a different language, those kind of things. I'm not able to connect that part, that what language were you talking about? So what is the point of language in that case? And the financial part. Yeah. So can you
Yeah.
just help me with that?
Yes, so again, I was talking of language as a barrier, and I think you very correctly said how if your mother tongue and the language that you're being taught, if it's not the same, or if you're because it's a we are everything is just operating in English, and you very rightly said how you're
Yes.
shifting different schools, so what kind of toll it takes on your even learning ability. It can even expand to other aspects such as making friends, and then having that very holistic approach of education where it's not just limited to curriculum studying but also other aspects of education. So in your experience, it's a this application is different from other applications as it focuses more on your struggles and your lived experience about how you have faced challenges, and if you come from um, such a community or a situation that has faced the barriers, then I would suggest you to reflect over your own experience and see how that has been a challenge and write about it deeply and honestly from your heart. So the different challenges that I listed earlier, that is not a very a limited list, but from just my own limited experience, I thought that, okay, these can be some of the lists that you can reflect on, but also if you have any other challenges that I think I did not expand on more, such as maybe sexuality in some people's cases, it can be. And also financially, you asked about how finance can be a barrier. So in terms of access, accessing good quality education, if because in India, even though we have Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan or things like that, but the quality of education, it's very sad to say it's only
Different.
in private education. So not just at school, but even after in public highest education, it's in private universities, which not many, not everyone is able to access. So how finance can be a challenge. Um, to get admission to universities as well as for even uh, other non extra academic purposes also, you can think about those. Yeah. I hope that helps, and I'll take another question, and if you still have doubt, maybe we can talk
One just
after this.
last question, very
Mm-hmm.
simple question.
Yeah.
So even though I have gone through their website, so this scholarship is primarily for any courses in the Cambridge, correct? So
Yes.
any master's taught degree program is fine with this.
Yes. Any master's or PhD. And masters
Okay,
also
fine.
meaning MPhil. I think somewhere some courses have are masters, some are MPhil. Yeah. Apart from
Yeah, I'll
undergrad,
be
MPhil, master,
yeah, actually
PhD.
that
Yes.
course which I will be applying, it will be MPhil in human inspired AI. That course. So was asking for that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. All the
thank you very
best.
much, Deepti. Thank you very much, Misbah, for this session and clearing some doubts. And really, it's really helpful.
Okay. All the best. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, there's a question in chat. I'll just read it out loud for whoever is then also watching the recording. The question is, um, if the round for deadline for my course is 31st March, can I apply for the course after 7 Jan and then apply for funding before 31st Jan?
okay, let me read this again. If the round 4 deadline for my course is 31st March, can I apply for the course after 7th Jan and then apply for funding before 31st? I am not sure how that will work, and because Misbah, I think you can also jump in if I
Yeah.
may technically go wrong, because um, your entire course application, you have to tick, you have to, in the funding section of your application, you have to put a tick in the Rowan Williams. So if you, and only after you submit that, can you submit this application by 31st of Jan. So, meaning that your entire course application gets submitted by 7th of Jan. And I think that is the difference, I think, between the funding deadline and the non-funding deadline. The 31st March is your non-funding deadline. That is, you can still submit your application, but you will not be considered for funding. Whereas if you submit by 7th of Jan, only then will you be considered for funding. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that's my understanding as well, but I would still recommend that you write an email to the course conveners to get a clarification. And if in case, they would still consider your application if you submit it after 7 Jan, but before 31st Jan, which is after the funding deadline, but before the Rowan Williams deadline. So and I guess this is for anyone who either has applied in the 3rd December deadline or missed the 3rd December funding deadline but is now applying for their course. I would recommend just writing to the course and asking if they can still consider you for Rowan Williams, given that their deadline is 31st January. So yeah, just write an email. There's 2 questions in my DM, Deepti. I'm just gonna read them out. So I'll go one after the other. Um, so there's a question, can we mention that the research question of my PhD project is best possible abroad, as here the state may not allow me to investigate the questions or may warrant risks. So is that something that they can say in their application?
Very interesting. We have come across certain cases like this during our course, but never prior to in the application process. I don't know, actually, because this is some this is just a topic for your study that will be caused that you will not be able to pursue in your in your country. So you need to move to a different country. Um, in some way it can, because it constitutes that you're not able to pursue, but if you're able to show that, or if it actually has happened that this topic of your study, um, or the issue that you're studying is has also affected you entirely, then I think you should, if you can write or if you're able to justify how that cause has affected your studies, then you should be able to, yeah, you can be eligible for this. I think that lists of if because it does constitute some components, for example, the discrimination and the human rights, as you will be put to uh, risk of violation of human rights. So it does constitute in some way. So I think, mm,
Sorry, were you
yes,
saying?
that was
Okay.
it. No.
Uh,
Go ahead.
I think I mean I agree with Deepti. I would recommend that in and of itself may not uh fit the eligibility if, as Deepti said, if this is one of the consequences of, the kind of work that you're doing or where you're from and what you're passionate about, and one of them is that even the PhD project you won't be able to do there. It might yeah, so that would be fine, but it needs to be like you need to give more context to that. I think that in and of itself may not be enough to say that you are eligible under what the scholarship requires. Um,
Can I
uh,
speak?
yeah.
Thank you. So I got it. I wanted to ask Deepti. Deepti, I kind of looked for details of the Rowan Williams when I was applying to Cambridge. I have applied, and correct me if I'm wrong. The scholarship page mentioned that if you have not yet received a conditional offer, you can just mention your application number. But you may to other guy you mentioned that you need to write to your department that you need decision before the 31st January deadline. So is it correct that we can apply to the scholarship regardless of if we have received a decision on our application?
Um, I don't know. I have seen that you need to have a conditional offer from the university. Did you say that you saw it in the Rowan
Yeah,
Williams
yeah,
website?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I am not
Mm-hmm.
very much sure, but it kind of read it like if you have conditional offer, you can mention your student ID number or the other ID that they give you. And if you have not received conditional offer, you can just
Uh-huh.
write the application ID that they give you once your application is submitted.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I have not come across this, but I think in that case, I would suggest that just consult once with the department if the if even without the if even without the offer letter you can still apply for this, because in my
Yeah,
experience and
because
the Mhm.
I don't think that they would separately consider my application with my special request. They would have their own timeline of assessment of application, and which mentions that at the earliest you can get an offer by mid-February in March.
So your application need to be submitted, I think before Jan, in order to get the conditional offer, as well as the separate application from the Cambridge Trust that you will then fill and revert back to them by 31st. Only the
Yes.
decision of the Cambridge Trust will be provided later in Feb, or sorry, in starting from Feb, March, and then by July, the decision of the Cambridge Trust. So I think we come to a solution whether you need to have a conditional offer from them or not? I think you do need to have a offer letter from them.
So what it seems um like on the website, and from what I understand, it says that in order to be eligible, you need to have an offer letter, a conditional offer, and XYZ as the eligibility was discussed. Um, Again, I would recommend writing an email if there is confusion about this. Um, if you don't have an offer letter by 31st in your application, and if you don't have an offer, if your application is still under consideration, see, you would have anyway applied before 7 Jan, which is before the funding deadline. So within that time, if you would have ticked on Rowan Williams, my sense is that they would give you a response. If they don't, you let them know that you're applying for Rowan Williams and you would want to have an offer, or sorry, know the outcome of your application, and see what they say. But I guess the best would be to reach out to them and send them an email. But irrespective, you would be anyway applying before the funding deadline. So and then whether you and I would say even if you don't receive an offer, you can just apply. I'm just going to check the form once again and what it says about your application. If Yeah, so it asks, so on the app, on the form itself, it asks you to give the university student number and application number. So if you have both of them by the date that you're applying, which is before 31st Jan, so it should be fine. Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
got that answer. Okay. There was another question in my DM which says that I'm at the end of my third semester. The coursework is done and I'm working on my thesis and publication. So can I apply for the scholarship? I'll appear for IELTS in January. So they graduate in May, June of 2025.
For the students who already are enrolled in, so this is a student who's already enrolled in the course and they want to apply in their third year of PhD, right?
No. I think that my sense is if they're in their third semester and they graduate
Sorry.
next semester, this would be a master's student, I
May
guess.
I?
Yeah.
Sorry, Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, actually, I'm in third semester of my master's and I'm applying for PhD. So, like for PhD, if your coursework is done and you are working on thesis and publication, like sometime you can convince professors. So, although we will get our official degree in maybe in May or June, but like I will be free till end of March, inshallah, like completely. That's my question.
So you want to apply for the funding for your ongoing course?
For my PhD. No, PhD is not ongoing. I will apply for PhD. Right now
Okay,
I'm doing
next.
master's.
So that is in the next. So you'll make a application for PhD. You'll make a new application for PhD, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So you can make. You can select the Rowan Williams funding for the PhD scholarship. Yes, you can definitely apply for this scholarship for the PhD application.
But as you mentioned, like there's a 7 January and 31st January. So what I'm asking that till that date, my degree won't be completed. So like, can I convince them by explaining that I'm at the end of this semester and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yes, you can. I think you can still apply for the, and even other students, I think they can still apply for a course which requires a degree, but they have not yet gotten that degree because the result hasn't been out yet. right, Misbah? I think you
Yeah.
can still apply for courses
Definitely. Yeah.
and your prior degree has not, the
Yeah.
result hasn't come out yet, but will
Yeah.
come out soon. So you can just maybe give them a tentative, if you have any tentative mark sheet of from previous semesters, or maybe you can, if you can get a letter from the university that they will get the result in this time, then if you
Yeah.
upload that, you should be fine.
Like in January, I will be have a transcript having all the coursework,
Hmm.
including my publication GPA as well. Like here, I'm studying already. Already on a master scholarship in Indonesia. By the way, UI,
Okay.
Universitas of Indonesia. Yeah. So like
Okay.
we have a criteria here that like the 4 semester only consist of thesis. So like the 4 semester
Uh-huh.
result will only have like grades of thesis, neither of
All
publication,
right.
nothing else. Yeah, till January I will be having all the grades, like all transcripts of everything, but just I won't have degree
It's
and
fine.
fine.
It's actually very normal for people. Like, in fact, this is what people do. So if whenever they're in their last semester, that's when they usually apply. So it's completely fine. That's how people do it. And universities also know that students apply while they're still pursuing their education. And when, in fact, conditional offers mean that that you need to graduate from the degree that you have that you're currently enrolled in, or sometimes they would ask you to have a certain grade from the university that you're currently enrolled in. So when we say, I've received a conditional offer, these are the conditions that sometimes come on that offer because they understand that you're currently doing a degree. So it's completely normal for you to apply while you're doing your degree. A lot of students do that, and you just have to submit the transcripts of all of the semesters that you have up until now, and then and for the thesis they may give you a condition that you need to have X like GPA, or they may say you need to just pass your dissertation or whatever that may be. That depends on the admissions committee, but it's not that you need to have completed your current degree in order to apply.
Okay. And what about IELTS? Actually, my IELTS exam is scheduled at the end of January, not the start of January. So whether it will create a problem for me?
Deepti, maybe you can speak about Cambridge.
Yeah, I think you can write to your department asking them if they can provide you some assistance, or even the Cambridge Trust, because if you need to apply for the IELTS is one of the requirement for the application, and
Mm-hmm.
unless you don't submit IELTS, you will not be able to submit your application by 7th of Jan. So just write to your both department and the Cambridge Trust regarding if your exam can be maybe preponed so that the results are out before the funding deadline application, and you can submit your application before the funding deadline. Or if
Okay.
any um, um,
What
if
I would suggest
mhm.
is that you ask for a waiver at this stage. They will assess your application. If you don't get a waiver, that means you need to take the IELTS, which is completely
Okay.
fine. Um,
Okay.
so on the portal, I think they'll give you an option of whether you want to apply for a waiver, and you apply for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but also just as Deepti mentioned, still write to your university, sorry, your course, and let them know all of these things. Okay. Um, I'm trying to see if there's anywhere. Okay, there's another question. When we mail the form for the scholarship, do we need to write anything specific in the email? Do we also need to send offer letter as an attachment?
If you attach them, that's actually good, because then you will have it's easier for them to understand the issue, and just mention that you have got this offer letter and you're applying for this. But most of the details will be in your the application form itself. Most of the details, because you will have your USN the student number, and they can check with that the required details. So if you attach the offer letter, that's well and good. But apart from just the application for the Rowan Williams, I don't think anything is necessary. The Rowan Williams application form is sufficient and well in itself to just send or just email.
Great. I don't have any other questions in my DM, and I don't see any other questions in chat. Again, if there's any questions, now would be a good time to ask because we are at the end of the hour and we'll close the session soon. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand or put them in chat, or you can also send it as a DM to me or to Deepti. We'll wait for a minute more. But if then no one has any questions, then I will end the session. But yeah, if you have any questions, now is the time to ask.
Yeah, and I would also like to say that we are just facilitators and mentors and not official. I mean, just it's understood, but just to reiterate, not official representatives. So if you have any doubt or if you find any discrepancy between what we say and what you find on the website and maybe understand and interpret also, just the best way to clarify that is to write to the university department or the Cambridge Trust. And my experience with them has been very good in terms of writing to them and getting very quick and helpful feedback and assistance. So feel free to write to them, and they are very quick to respond and very eager to help. So do not fear, do not hesitate. Write to them even if you have any slightest doubt. Yeah.
Great. No other questions, so I will end the session. Thank you so much, Deepti, for joining us today and for taking the time out to speak to everybody. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Bakt.
Sorry, my internet was not very well. I could not listen to the entire session. So can you please tell when will the recording be available?
By the end of the day today, it'll be available on our YouTube.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Great. With that, thank you, Deepti, for joining us and for doing the workshop with us again this year. It was really helpful, I'm sure. And thank you to everyone who joined us. We have 2 more sessions planned for today on graduate applications in engineering and graduate applications in psychology. The information, the Zoom links are available on our link tree, so please attend that session if that's of interest. And with that, we will end. Again, thank you, Deepti, and thank you, everyone. Hope you have a nice rest of your weekend.
Thank you. You too. Thank you all for attending.